Hello, hello, and welcome to a Zanette Knits Live about a knitting pattern that's coming to be to you tomorrow. I'm Jeanette, and I'm very excited to tell you about the Valmiera Memories Socks. That it's a toe-up color work sock pattern that's being released tomorrow. And as usual, this is supposed to be a live Q&A, so if you're joining, thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment, and I will hopefully see it and will be answering it right away. But in the meantime, I will just let you know what we'll cover. So I'll talk a little bit about the inspiration, about the gauge and yarns and needles. Move on to the sizing and schematics for this pattern, and then talk through the construction and techniques that are used, as well as possible modifications. So Valmiera Memories Socks is the fourth pattern in the Memory Socks series, and as usual, they are toe-up socks with a sole gusset. That means the increases for the gusset are placed at the middle of the sole instead of sides. I don't know how long I'll keep this tradition, but so far it's been my favorite way, and it's holding. So the inspiration comes from a very almost a year ago, in October or November, when we went to the Barcelona Knits Festival. My friend Annette had an idea that we should all of us that were there make matching socks that I design using the yarn that we picked up at the festival. So that sort of became a tradition. So wherever we went with our friends, it's had to become there had to be a dedicated pattern for it. And last time we all met was, well, not last time, but well, a little while ago, near Easter, we all met in Latvia in a place called Valmiera. It's pretty much where I spent my high school and university years. It's a very charming town and holds many memories for me, but in this design I focused on the memories that we made that day in the Knitters Meetup, celebrating our 50th pattern release, and with a home made meringue cake that was very delicious. So it had to be a special pattern. And so the Valmiera Memories Socks were born. In terms of gauge and yarn, so I used Lamana Merida, that we got provided by Rapid Wool. It's a friend of mine who distributes this yarn, and she was there, and it's a special sock yarn that has some silk in it, and it shows. They're very silky and shiny, and it's really a pleasure to knit. And I love that they are already in a ball and I don't have to worry about winding a skein, but because the gauge is 32 stitches times 38 rows in a 10 by 10 centimeter or 4 by 4 inches square, pretty much any sock yarn will do, and you don't really need a lot. So I used 2.25 millimeter, that is US size 1 circulars, but you can use whatever needles get you the gauge, and DPNs, or sorry, I use DPNs, but you can also use circulars in this pattern. The other things that you will need are is the tape measure to measure the length, some stitch markers, and as I will mention later, there is some short row shaping in the heel. And I love using Japanese short rows, and I use bobby pins or removable stitch markers to trap yarn. So if you go with the Japanese short row method, you would need something like that as well. In terms of, because it's a stranded color work pattern, you probably need 2 colors. And my friend Liana this time had this amazing idea to make each sock unique in that it's inverted. So you start with one color for one sock and choose the other color to be the main color for the other sock. And that way they are really cool. They are a pair, but they're each unique. But of course, you don't have to do that. You can make both of them the same and also enjoy the pattern. In fact, there were some test knitters where the yarn didn't really work well for inverted combination, and they just made both of them the same, and it looks great as well. One thing I would say is that after looking at these 30 test knitter projects, I personally prefer the contrast to be quite high. So the higher the contrast, the more pronounced the patterns. You can really see the really intricate details. So I would recommend a high contrast. I might have said this before, my favorite was this really dark blue and really light pink, and those were really awesome. I love blue, so maybe that's the reason, but those look really cool. What's next for me about this is, yeah, yarn alternatives. As I said, any sock yarn will be great for this project. Sizing. So the pattern comes in 3 sizes, and it contains a schematic and a measurement table, and it's based on the foot circumference. That is probably the harder one to adjust because the foot length and the leg length are adjustable. One more thing to note is that the foot circumference is made up of less stitches than the leg circumference, purely because the stranded color work means the sock has a bit less of a give than if it was plain stockinette. And to get your foot through without issue, I prefer to add a little bit more stitches in the leg than in the foot. And in my opinion, the fit turns out a bit better that way. But of course, if you don't like that, there's a way to continue this gusset, this heel flap to go a bit higher and do more decreases, and to return to the original stitch count as well, if you don't have a problem of high arch, or you have nice tiny feet that fit everywhere. That are not, my feet are not like that. So that's that about sizing. So these are size 2, but they're size 1 and 1 and 3. So hopefully in that range, everyone can find something for themselves. And now I will dive deeper into the construction. And one most important differentiator of this pattern and the other sock patterns that I've put out is the fact that I am offering anatomical toes. So I don't know how well you can see, but here this is the left foot, this is the big toe part, and this is the rest of the toes. So you can see that the increases, because it's a toe up, go longer on one side than the other. So you have to be mindful that you don't make 2 of the same. And here is my matching right foot sock there. Really hard to show on a video, but trust me, it's there. And there's also an option to do the traditional trapezoid shape toe as well, if you're not feeling experimental, or if the benefits of the anatomical toe don't really appeal to you. I found that these fit me better, and because the foot is all in one color, I didn't have to worry about starting the pattern and explaining increases within a stitch pattern. I could just carry on and make the toe part longer without issue. So I used the opportunity to experiment with this interesting shape, and I love that. Then after the toe, we have a fairly easy straight piece of just knitting in the round, and then we start increasing for the gusset. There is some short row shaping. How can I show it? Short row shaping in the heel, and then the flap is worked using a reinforced slip stitch pattern until we decrease back the stitches that were increased in the gusset, and we join in the round, and only in the leg we start the stitch pattern, the chart, the colorwork chart, and then it changes gradually from having the lighter color as the main to the greener, the darker one becoming as the main. And the pattern contains both types of charts, one on a light background and one on a dark background, so you don't have to twist your head and brain to try and figure out which color to use as you read through the chart. And the chart only has one repeat, but it's very easy to adjust the length of the foot as well as the length of the leg. You could start if you wanted longer socks, you could start the colorwork section a bit higher up, or you could continue this one color for as long as you wished, and then finally end with a cuff, also your length desired. Yep, that's pretty much it. Oh, one thing about the row gauge. So the schematic is based on your stitch gauge matching and row gauge matching that's called in the pattern, but sometimes it's tricky to match the row gauge. In that case, there is a link to a blog article on how to figure out where you would have to start the gusset increases for the foot if your row gauge differs from that in the pattern, and that is basically a quick formula for how we calculate the remaining length, and that is the number of rounds you'd need to do for the increases plus half of the heel flap width in stitches, and that gives you the remaining length of the foot, which means you have to do this much to start the gusset increases. But yeah, all of that is in the pattern. I mean, the link in the pattern takes you to a blog which explains this method if you want to be super precise. But chances are that your row gauge will be in the ballpark and you don't have to do too many adjustments. Modifications, I think that I have already covered. Yeah, you could probably do whatever cuff stitch you want. I picked I picked a very easy 1x1 rib, but if you want a fancier look, you could go with a 1x1 twisted rib. I like 1x1 ribs or 1x1 twisted rib for toe-up socks, because then you can use the Italian bind-off or the tubular bind-off that are usually stretchy, and you can get your heel through the sock. If you use a different rib, like 2x2 or 1x2 or whatever, there are alternative stretchy bind-off methods that you could use as well. There are some on my YouTube channel, or you could rearrange the stitches just before binding off to fit 1x1 pattern, and then you can use the 1x1 tubular bind-off as well. But yeah, something to be mindful if you're not a fan of the 1x1 rib, and if that doesn't look too fine for you. I'm usually not really a fan either, but in this case, oh, an end. In this case, it looks all right. So yeah. And then if you do decide to make these socks, let me know what you see in the pattern. Very many different people see different things, so it's always interesting to hear what it is that you see. And if you're a newsletter subscriber, watch out for the email tomorrow morning that will contain your special discount code for the intro discount. For everyone else, watch this space on Instagram or other social channels for an intro discount code there, as well as we will be running an intro sale. And I think that is it for this pattern. I am very excited to share it with you all, and look forward to seeing so many more memory socks popping up in our Instagram. If you share, please see the hashtag in the pattern that you could add to your post so we don't miss it and can reshare. Thank you so much for being here, and I keep in touch. I'll see you next time.